In the news this week, ongoing public polling favours new children's hospital at Osborne Park as the government gears up for major budget announcement. A WAMN News exclusive.
The pushback against hospital site shifts and rental hikes. The opposition joins young mothers to draw battle lines against the government. Multicultural Eid Carnival brings joy and festivities for Perth as Ramadan ends. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loom and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. Public support for the potential new children's hospital wing at Osborne Park is growing, as revealed by our ongoing WAMN News exclusive budget surplus opinion poll. With 15 options to prioritise from cost of living to law and order, viewers are having their say until next Friday. Peter Kennedy reports on what the new Kids Hospital unit may mean for the upcoming election.
WAMN News' pre-budget priority poll, the fourth annual poll in the series, is showing some interesting trends which will be of significance, particularly for Treasurer Rita Safiotti. Number one priority, the respondents are saying the government must move on household fees and charges. Number two, health and mental health are emerging as key issues as well, and that's not just in the metropolitan area, that's right around the state. And number three, of course, the rental crisis and the shortage of public housing, and that is continuing to be a major issue, particularly for young families and older people. And not only the shortage of rental housing, but rentals themselves. And the signs are that Perth housing prices will continue to go through the roof as the demand and supply moves to try and get some equilibrium, population growing strongly and the supply not matching it. So look, they are key issues in the poll, the fourth poll by WAMN News: household fees and charges, health and mental health, and the rental crisis and public housing. And Treasurer Safiotti will have to deal with those, or be expected to deal with those, in the state budget that she presents on May the 9th, the last state budget before the election in March next year. Very, very important politically. But now, not only that, education has slid down as a priority, which is an interesting indication. It's always been a high priority in the past, so other issues are sort of overtaking it. But one thing which has emerged as very important, and one where the government is expected to address, that is the issue of increased hospital facilities for children, particularly in the northern suburbs. And the word is, the government will move an announcement soon to increase services and facilities at the Osborne Park Hospital for children. And this will take pressure off the Children's Hospital itself, the Perth Children's Hospital, but also it's seen as taking the wind out of the sails of the Liberal Party, the Liberal opposition's attack on the government over its decision to move the King Edward Memorial Hospital for women and for births, of course, to the site of the Fiona Stanley Hospital south of the river. The opposition says the new hospital should be on the site, the Sir Charles Gardner site in Nedlands, not south of the river. So the government, by upgrading the children's facilities, particularly at the Osborne Park Hospital, and to also look after the northern suburbs, especially children in the northern suburbs, it's designed to take the wind out of the sails of the opposition attack. Whether it does that job remains to be seen, of course, but you can see the strategy. And the pre-budget poll will indicate just how the government will look as it aims to seek a third four-year term in March next year. And by the way, you still have your chance to have your views heard in the WAMN poll to advise Rita Safiotti. The address is in the video description, and the poll will close next Friday. So if you haven't already recorded, get onto the video description, see the address, have your views recorded, and we'll have all the details for you after the poll closes next Friday. Peter Kennedy, WAMN News.
The battle on health politics continues as the opposition and young mothers clap back against the Cook government, stating that the proposed Mothers and Babies Hospital in Murdoch is not worth the risk. Additionally, they highlighted that the state is now in a housing crisis, with WA having the fastest rising housing market in the country. Paige Reid has more.
The Cook government's proposal to move the Mothers and Babies Hospital to Murdoch remains a political sticking point. Liberal Party leader Libby Mettam says many distressed mothers have come forward urging the government to change their decision. Mettam says this is a reckless decision by the Cook government and could put many at risk.
We have seen the leaked reports from WA Health, professionals who've put their jobs on the line to raise alarm about the Cook Labor government's reckless decision, which will lead to patient death and disability.
First-time mother Angela Courtney thinks the move is also not worth the risk. She says that the government need to move in a direction to protect society's most vulnerable.
I remember the nurses coming in after their tea break and they looked devastated. They just looked like they were in shock, and I just remember them saying, what about the babies? Has no one thought about the babies? What about the surgeries and the babies? And I think that's when the concern really sort of hit for me, because I knew that Hunter had surgeries in his future, and I knew that that it was a very important topic.
Deputy Liberal leader Steve Martin also spoke out against the Cook government this week in relation to the current housing crisis WA is facing. He says he warned the Cook government that one landlord off the market is too many.
We now have the fastest rising annual rent prices in Australia in Perth, and we have the lowest vacancy rate in all capital cities in Australia. So West Australians in the housing market are facing desperate circumstances, and we've seen 7 years of inaction from the state Labor government.
Martin says the state will be stuck in a housing crisis and will be with some time, with the prices of rentals continuing to rise. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
Hi there. Are you looking for a new home or want to refinance your car mortgage to get a better rate? At AA Finance Solutions, we have the expertise and knowledge to help you to find the right loan for your needs and budgets. Contact us today. Let us help you to make your home ownership dream a reality.
AA Finance Solutions, your local mortgage broker.
Public housing remains a challenging issue, with the Greens raising concerns about vacant homes in Perth's southern suburbs. In Beaconsfield, the local member Brad Pettit says some housing complexes have been emptied out and renovated, while claiming that some houses have been left undone and unoccupied for 7 years as the rental crisis continues to grip WA.
We are seeing sites that were a few years ago home to dozens, in fact, put them all together, many hundreds of social housing dwellings now laying empty, and laying empty for years. This one's probably demolished 4 years ago, and has since then been just turned to gravel. And we're highlighting this all around the state because what we're seeing has been a program of both governments of both persuasions demolishing social housing, demolishing quickly and replacing very, very slowly.
You can watch the full interview and read the story now on the WAMN Extra News Club. Subscribe to support independent local news and keeping democracy strong.
The Australian Arab Association's Multicultural Eid Carnival for 2024 was held at Osborne Park on Saturday. There were food trucks, rides, performances, stalls and fireworks at the event opposite Optus Stadium. The Office of Multicultural Interests, as well as Healthway, were helping with the carnival, with thousands attending the event. The festival is part of Western Australia's Muslim community's celebrations of Eid Mubarak. It was also free for the whole family and celebrates the end of Ramadan. This marks the 14th annual year of the festival and an important period for followers of Islam.
You come and have a look and see and you'll enjoy. It's a family day out, and I hope you do come along and see what our culture brings.
The Nationals have pledged to establish a new lead agency for disaster and recovery if they return to government in the upcoming 2025 state election. The opposition leader Shane Love made the announcement in Northampton this week, 3 years after the devastating effect of Cyclone Seroja. This new agency will be known as the WA Resilience and Recovery Agency. Mr. Love says this agency will assist WA communities when they face the aftermath of disasters. He criticised the Cook government's response to Cyclone Seroja as woeful and pointed out that out of the promised $104.5 million disaster recovery funding arrangement package, only $8.8 million was used. The party's Geraldton candidate, Kerry Waugh, welcomes the announcement and says she saw firsthand how the cyclone affected businesses, communities and families. She emphasizes the importance of learning from this disaster and improving disaster recovery for the future.
The Disrupt Burrup Hub activist group vandalised WA Premier Roger Cook's office this week, urging the WA government to refuse the expansion of Woodside's Burrup Hub. Photos provided show messages sprayed across the front of the Premier's office, block browse and Disrupt Burrup Hub written across the brick walls out front. The WA Appeals convener is still deciding whether to allow the expansion to go ahead. This week's protest comes 3 weeks after Federal Resources Minister Madeleine King's office was vandalised by another anonymous activist. A statement provided by the anonymous vandal says this expansion will threaten our wildlife and climate. This spray painting campaign started after the WA government announced its decision to expand on the Woodside Burrup Hub in January 2023. Woodside Burrup Hub is due to hold its AGM on April 24th alongside a shareholder and activist panel, where they will discuss the unrest of their current climate record and continue to pursue a punitive slap suit against multiple Disrupt Burrup Hub campaigners.
And now here's Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. It's occurred to me this last week as I've watched my mum go through a hospital journey with a broken hip that it's a very confusing and difficult place for patients and relatives a lot of the time. It can sometimes be worrying when you're not getting specific answers to what's gone wrong, what's going to happen. A lot of this is due to the uncertainty of disease processes and diagnosis, and things take time. It takes time to make a diagnosis, and it takes time to see whether a treatment's going to respond. And sometimes we don't know which way a disease is going to go, whether it's going to evolve in a positive or a negative direction over time. And during that time, it's really important to feel free to ask questions of the people looking after you or your family member. Often very handy to write things down and to understand that the decision makers, people like the doctors, may only be visiting the patient a couple of times a day, but that they're always available should the need arise at other times. And so being able to time it so that you're there when the treating team does visit or the treating doctor is there can be very useful for family members in particular. You can also record the first names of people who are looking after a relative in order to be able to provide appropriate thanks in time, because you'll see a lot of staff members going above and beyond and really trying to reassure patients through what can be, a scary process. So don't be afraid to ask questions, even though people look busy. It's always difficult to apply the results of a Google search to someone's specific situation. Just imagine that you Googled, what is the best house to buy in Perth? You wouldn't really get much useful information back from that. And the specific individual circumstances of a patient is very much like the specific individual circumstances of someone who wants to buy a house. It's different for everybody. And so it's very important to get that tailored, specific advice from the people who are looking after patients on the ground. Sometimes it's useful also to ask questions of a GP even while you're in hospital or while your family member's in hospital, in order to get some better understanding around the context of why it is that things seem to take a bit of time for us to come to a diagnosis, and why it can take one or two different types of therapy in order to get a positive result from a patient. And that's all a normal part of the medical process. So maintaining that confidence sometimes requires asking lots of questions and writing things down so that those answers stick, and being there primarily to support the patient. Really important to be giving them that reassurance that they're got their family with them, their friends with them through the disease process. Thanks very much for your time.
And that was Dr. Andrew Miller. Now, speaking of the Eid Carnival, it's in its 14th year, which is pretty amazing, and thousands went. So, Ivan, I loved the bazaar stalls, but what did you enjoy about the carnival?
Fireworks. Yeah, fireworks is a very big thing, and the community loves it. They did it for Eid Carnival, I think they did it for Australia Day, the Australian Arabs Australia Day, and then they also do it for the Arab Festival, which in my opinion is a fantastic move. I love fireworks, and they have it every time before the event concludes. So finish with a bang.
Exactly. And now, here's Leo. What's coming up on 6 News tonight?
Thank you very much, guys. The top stories we're following on 6 News right now. The Prime Minister describes the Sydney shopping centre attack as a horrific act of violence after multiple people were killed when a man went on a stabbing spree before being shot dead by police. Plus the Bruce Lehman defamation case verdict to be handed down tomorrow morning after initially being delayed. We've got the latest headlines for you on the hour, every hour. Tune in whenever you want on our YouTube channel and our website, 6newsau.com. For now, though, it's back to you.
Thanks, Leo. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.